What is up? Welcome to Breathing Fundamentals, every surfer's best friend. My name is Kyle Ross. In this three-part series, I'm going to share with you some super simple and super powerful little tweaks you can make to your breathing. They're going to give you a giant boost in endurance and power and overall health. Now, the reason this stuff is so powerful is because we've been breathing for hundreds of thousands of years. We're so well adapted to the natural environment, but because we're so adapted and it's so precise that doing a couple of the things wrong can have a huge negative effect. But on the flip side of that, if you can tweak those and do those things right, you're suddenly putting yourself at a huge advantage. Now, there's sort of an epidemic in breathing. I never hear anyone talk about this. I came up in athletics and surfing and all that stuff, and nobody was ever talking about these kind of fundamentals. Such basic stuff, but super, super powerful, as you'll see now. So we're gonna get started here. Video number one, this is how to breathe. Now, nowhere in my life would everyone ever come up to me and tell me this is how you breathe. Not in sports, not in surfing, not in life. Nobody talks about how to actually breathe. And you know what? It's really easy to do wrong, but really easy to do right as well. So we're gonna start with nasal breathing. You wanna breathe in through your nose all the time. The saying I hear going around now is that your mouth is for talking and eating and your nose is for breathing, which couldn't be more true. Now, breathing as a whole is a super complex issue, and so is nasal breathing. The reasons why it benefits you is really, really complicated. It can change, it adds gases to your oxygen as it goes in, as well as a lot of other really complex chemical processes. But I'll share one with you that is super beneficial to you and really important to understand. It's called the Bohr effect. Now, this was discovered by a scientist. I'm pretty sure he was Danish a long time ago, and his last name was Bohr, so it's called the Bohr effect. It's about B-O-H-R. So you can look that up later if you want to. The idea with this is so you understand when you breathe in oxygen, it converts to CO2, and that's what you expel. And that was considered to be a waste gas, the CO2. However, it's now been discovered by this scientist here that you need CO2 in your bloodstream in order to get oxygen into your muscles, because CO2 makes your blood vessels dilate or open up. So oxygen has to be in the presence of CO2 in order to enter into your muscles. If not, it just flows through your blood without getting delivered to your muscles. So that is super, super important. Now, if you're not nasal breathing, like see, you say when you get super exhausted, your body's telling you to take in more oxygen, so you start breathing through your mouth. Well, that's called lung flushing. So that's flushing all that CO2 out, but you need that CO2 in. Now, there's a catch-22 to that because your body does want to expel CO2, so you have to raise your tolerances. You have to be able to tolerate having higher levels of CO2. And this is super important for surfers because you're constantly forced to hold your breath over and over. So you're going to be naturally building up those levels of CO2. And if you flush your lungs, if you have low tolerances, you're going to be flushing your lungs even more. So you're going to lose all that really, really important CO2 for feeding your muscles. Now, for building your tolerances, nasal breathing is super important because when you're breathing through your nose, it's similar to a restricted breathing because it's a smaller hole, right? So when you're super tired, your body is going to tell you take in more oxygen. So you want to start mouth breathing. But then that leads to something called overbreathing, which is in and out and you can't recover. It's not the same as hyperventilating. Overbreathing is a little different. So it's lung flushing and then taking in more oxygen, so you don't have that right ratio of CO2 to O2. So nasal breathing is gonna give you less oxygen, but that's gonna raise your tolerances to having low oxygen. The benefits of that is it's gonna make your body produce more red blood cells. So you're gonna be able to hold more oxygen. So your oxygen carrying capacity is gonna be greater because you have more red blood cells as well, because your body wants to expel CO2. So when you're recovering, say after a workout and you're really tired, your mind is gonna tell you, okay, breathe in lots of oxygen. So you're gonna be hungry for oxygen. But if you continue to not breathe out of your mouth and just breathe into your nose, while your body is telling you to breathe into your mouth and you resist it, that's going to build up your tolerances to CO2, and it's also going to make you produce more red blood cells. So recovering with nasal breathing, working out with nasal breathing is going to build those tolerances super, super quick. As well, it's going to change your body. Like I said, it's going to make your body produce more red blood cells. It's going to strengthen your lungs, your diaphragm, and your heart. So you're able to take in more oxygen and you're able to hold more oxygen, your oxygen carrying capacity. So that is so critical. And like I said, super simple, right? Breathe out of your nose, always. Second is diaphragm breathing. So the flip side of this is chest breathing. This is also known as inverted breathing. Now there's a place in California called the Czech Performance Institute, and they rehab thousands of these cases. And they say, according to their research, that upwards of 90% of the population does chest breathing. So like if I ask you to take a huge deep inhale, if you puff up your chest like that, first thing, That's inverted breathing. I had it myself, and I can tell you that once I discovered that I had this, and I noticed it all the time, it was hard to switch over because I've been doing it for so long. And so you want to switch to diaphragm breathing, but it's going to take conscious repetitions. Now, the Czech Institute I just mentioned, they would have different tricks where they would tie a string around your diaphragm so you could feel yourself, your belly breathing up against it. So you would know that you're doing it all the time. And now that's a good way to do it. But if you're looking to improve your surfing through fitness and you want to do workouts that are specific to surfing and paddle strength and things like that, the best way to do that is conscious repetition of using your diaphragm for your workouts. Now, they say it takes up to 3,500 to 5,000 conscious repetitions in order to make diaphragm breathing a subconscious thing, so you do it without thinking. Now, that's super important to get to that point. And like I said, so it takes conscious repetition. That's why it's so beneficial to mix it with the workout, because you're focusing on your diaphragm, you're focusing on your workout, and that's really gonna have those improvements. So the last part of the video number one, the fundamentals, is breathing and movement, and this links in with your diaphragm as well. So you want to link your inhales and your exhales with particular movements, and this is super important. So to simplify, if you're going towards the fetal position, crouching down, coming inward, you want to exhale because you're pressing in, right? So exhale, and that means to suck in your diaphragm. And then when you are going away from the fetal position, getting taller, spreading outward from the core, you want to inhale because you're expanding. Now, if you think if you're throwing a ball, right? You want to exhale because you're coming compacted in on yourself, right? Imagine trying to inhale on a throw. It feels super weird and also really reduces your power. So your body has a natural rhythm. You want to link your breath to your movement. This takes conscious repetition as well. So going into a workout, you got to understand which part of the movement is the inhale and which part is the exhale, and then doing it consciously. And like I said before, I had inverted breathing, and also I wasn't mixing with my movement. So getting this right, it takes a bit of like conscious effort, so before it becomes unconscious. Now I've been doing it for so many years now that I don't even think about it. So it's breathing with the diaphragm. Let's say you're doing a squat, breathe out with the diaphragm, suck your belly in, but with your nose, and then belly out. So like I said, this stuff is so critical, but it may all be new to you, might be some of it new to you, but the benefits of it are so powerful. Like I said, it's just tiny little tweaks. And if you want to go super deep into science of breathing, it is massively huge. You could get lost in the weeds with all the chemical processes and stuff, but really, you don't need any of that stuff. You just need to understand the benefits and these tiny little fundamental principles, and you need to practice them, repetition. And so this is going to give you a huge boost in your endurance and your power and your overall well-being. Now, in tomorrow's video, I'm going to teach you some ways to do low oxygen training. Now, this is critical for a surfer because you're constantly forced to hold your breath when you're duck diving, when you're held down, when you're caught inside. You're going to be doing an endurance sport while also on low levels of oxygen. So I'm going to show you the 3 ways to train low oxygen, how to do them, and how not to do them. And that is like the super fuel for a surfer. So if you want to surf longer sessions, catch more waves, you got to have the muscles for the paddle strength, but 90% of it, literally 90% of it, is the breath. That's super fuel for a surfer for surfing longer sessions, recovering quicker, and catching more waves. So video number 2, we're going to be learning about low oxygen training. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. My name is Kyle Russ with Hydro Mind. This is Breathing Fundamentals. Thanks for watching.